Um, let's get this show on the road. So 4 days ago, we welcomed in the new year, 2022, and many of us perhaps with some trepidation. Yet here we are, and we will face this year with all its challenges, with COVID, financial challenges, social, political, and family and personal dilemmas of many kinds. And each of us will do this from our own places of strength and resilience, whatever these may be. Today, we want to explore this place, the you and the me, who are the authors of our lives, and what it is that we can do to make a difference in this year. Welcome to Exceptional TV. My name is Karen Judd-Smith. I'm the creator of Infinite Influence Live, and I'm your host. And today we have Maria Mantoudakis here with us to talk not so much about the specific goals that you perhaps have made as you started this new year, but rather what it is that you can do to fulfill the specific goals you have, and so transform your life and reach your next level of best. And for this, I welcome you, Maria. Thank you for coming here and spending this time with us today.
Thank you so much, Karen. What a privilege. Thank you. Looking forward to having a wonderful conversation with you and the audience, and looking forward to everyone growing as a result of that discussion. So thank you so much.
Maria, just even looking very briefly at your bio, but I would like you to dig a little bit deeper than just what a few words can say. I mean, you've already helped so many people reach greater potential in their lives, fulfill their inner potential. And I noticed that you've spent quite many years learning from people like Dale Carnegie, Jack Canfield, but not just learning, becoming a certified trainer in their respective fields. So I'm going to ask you at different times as we move on through this, what Dale Carnegie would say about this, what perhaps Jack Canfield might say about something, as well as, and very specifically, what you have to say about this. But before we get into any of the specifics of the transformational component, I would really love to hear how you ended up here. How did you end up in South Amboy, New Jersey? How did you end up becoming a certified trainer in these areas? How did what is your passion? How did that bring you here?
Right. So what brings us to where we are, right? And if all of us look back at our lives, we see that there's a series of events that happen that actually are driving us somewhere. Now, I had a very unique life. And what I mean by that is I was born in Greece. I was growing up in Greece. And for some reason, I was an only child. So I didn't have a lot of people to play with. So what would happen is I would imagine a lot. I would sit back and I would imagine things that kids would normally not think about. And just to give you an example, Karen, this one time I was sitting on a curb right outside my house, and I noticed ants on the ground. And I saw them going in and coming out of this hole in the ground. And all of a sudden, I imagined what life could be for them and how hard they're working, and how can I protect them? So, and again, at this point, maybe I was 5 years old, and I felt a responsibility as a human to protect, to help, to watch and observe, and I knew that I had a role in fulfilling in this world, right? So, so I had a very unique childhood in that I imagined a lot. I experienced a lot. I dreamt of being in the United States. You know, you watch the movies and that was the beautiful life, right? Oh, well, events happened and I was in the United States. And of course, when we arrived here, my parents didn't have any money or, you know, worked at factories at minimum wage. Yet I dreamt of going to college. And it was so funny because I had a teacher in high school, God bless her, Mrs. DeLumba, and was her name. And she said to me, Maria, you need to start thinking about things practically in your life. Like, don't say you're going to go to college. You know, maybe you should learn how to type, maybe take steno in high school, maybe think about getting a job versus going to college. Well, I said to her, well, I'm going to Rutgers. And that's when she brought to my attention, Rutgers at that time was an old boys school. I'm going to Rutgers. I didn't have money for the application. But Karen, all I could tell you is that events happened.
Mm-hmm.
And there I was in front of Dean McCormick, telling him, even though I applied, I don't know how I'm going to go here. I can't afford it. I don't speak English very well. I can't, you know, I want to go. It's in my heart. And him saying to me, are you willing to work for it? And I said, sure. So he hired me in his office to help his secretary around my class schedule. So I ended up one of the first women at Rutgers without any money to even pay for my books. Right? So what has brought me here was a series of miracles, truly miracle, like total impossibilities actually happening in my life. And again, over a very stupid accident, I ended up exposed to the Dale Carnegie program. I was in corporate, and one of the people that worked for me wanted to take the class. And basically, I called up Dale Carnegie to tell them that their flyer, everything they're promising just can't be true. And why do they do such misadvertising and taking advantage of people? And I was like shocked that they were able to get away with this. They were talking about giving you self-confidence and communication skills and all these things. And I was like, how could you do this? And the gentleman on the other side said to me, well, let your guy take the course. If you see no difference in him, call us up and we'll discuss it. But if you do see a difference in him, then you have to take the course. So of course the guy's life changed and I took the course and kind of never left them. About 18 years, you know, for about 3 years, I was a coach with them. And then for 15 years, I was a certified trainer with them. And that's when it clicked for me that I was to empower people, to help them reach their next level of what Maria calls, their next level of greatness. Right. So
and so you had experienced that, and you had seen it, you had experienced it, and then you dug into the hows of doing that.
Exactly. And all these programs that I got exposed to, you know, again, Dale Carnegie passed away in 1955.
Right.
So his books became famous in the 1920s.
Mm-hmm.
He knew how it worked. He
Mm.
knew the universe works, right? And he was presenting it sometimes in a business way so that people would not see it as woohoo and, run away
Right.
from it, right? So it gave me the capability to communicate even what I had experienced in my life
Mm.
and to better understand how it was all working.
So
So,
you just mentioned one thing that I think is, I mean, we can see it in the business world. Even now, as corporations talk about digital transformation, and there's a tendency, as being an uppermost, priority to be able to stay innovative, to stay at the leading edge, to stay cutting edge, in our fast-paced world. And yet, time and time again, it seems like the piece that is missing, it's the human element that is, people talk about digitization and the latest software and all, and I love all that stuff too. And
yeah.
And yet what, 70%, almost 80% of corporations still fail to be successful in digital transformation because they're not dealing with the human side of change. And so, I mean, to me, that's why I heard you say that that Dale Carnegie put it into business terms that otherwise would be seen as woo-woo. Can you talk a little bit more about that challenge in the corporate world?
Yes, of course. And by the way, I'm still in the corporate world. I work for British Telecom as a client lead. So I've always had both sides of the scale in this. I wrote my books and I do my talks, and then there's the other side of it. But I see it as all one. I see it as all one, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because if you really think about what do we do at work? And I'm going to talk about digitalization too. But if you think about your work environment, even though we're now working virtually, many of us, right? But if you think about our work environment, there are things we do and there are people we interface with.
Mm-hmm.
And when we think back of jobs we had in our 20s and our 30s and our 40s, we remember less of the details of what we did.
Yep.
But I very strongly remember this person that was kind to us, this person that was not kind to us.
Oh, those we remember very well.
Exactly. It's all about, and again, imagine if everyone who works understood this concept, that it's actually what we're going to remember is our interactions with each other and our interactions with people, right? So when I'm at work, I'm always thinking, what am I supposed to contribute to this person? What am I supposed to contribute to that person? And it becomes, your job becomes amazing. You begin loving your job because it's not necessarily I'm waking up in the morning and I'm doing 1, 2, 3 over and over again, but it's in the morning and I'm contributing to people, right? Now, regarding digitalization, I love it. And I really, truly love my company because it's about what I spoke about when I was 5 years old, right? Digitalization is actually people imagining the future, right? Imagining, and look at everything we have now in this digital world and imagine how much more we can accomplish just by taking our imagination and bringing it into the physical world. And every single year, we see all these new, I'm going to call them products, right? using the corporate phrases, right? But we see
Right.
these products, but every single product came from a thought, an imagination,
Mhm.
something into the future that people could get together now and bring into reality and make life better for our world. So so from a Dale Carnegie, and how did he make it more of a business
Mm.
something? Um, when he wrote the book, How to Win Friends, and
Influence
basically,
people. Yeah.
yeah, and influence people. Basically, he went out and he took a survey. He basically was attempting to understand how people clicked, right? What is it that makes people click, and what gives them a good life and what gives them a not very good life, right? So, and again, on the web, you could find, his principles, but the very first principle is the negative one, right? Where all the principles, he tells you how to be, he tells you to
Mhm.
smile, he tells you, how to be. But the first principle starts with a don't, right? Don't do this. And the don't, number one principle was don't criticize, condemn, or complain.
Mm.
And he found that as the key to a successful life. The key to a
Mm.
successful life: don't criticize, don't condemn, don't complain. And again, when you read his books, and even if you're experiencing life, you could see why that is so critical, right? When we criticize others, we're looking at them from our perspective. We really are not being empathetic or understanding where they're coming from. So,
Yeah, and it seems like often too that criticism, that critique, that condemnation, that complaint is a double-edged sword always.
yes, yes, exactly. You feel so good because people want to talk to you, around the water cooler to hear, oh, everybody kind of stands around the water cooler and complains about something, right? So you become the popular person of complaining, but actually what you're doing is bringing negativity into your life, right?
Mm.
So, so in my book, I describe, a series of, how a thought turns into a feeling,
Mm.
how
Right.
that feeling puts out a vibration, how that vibration, and the feeling and the thought turns into words and then into actions, and then
Right.
there's our experience, right? And most of us are like, oh, yeah, 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 I've heard that before, who cares? But actually, what we don't pay attention to is that vibration piece. We forget that whatever you're feeling at any given time puts out a vibration in hertz, right? So we know the positive vibrations. We know when we're in love, it's like a 528 hertz, right? We know when we're enlightened, it's over 600. We know that when we're experiencing grief, it's like a very low hertz. When we're angry, it's a very low hertz.
Mm.
But what we don't understand is that that vibration goes out and attracts other things in that level of vibration, right? So when we criticize, when we condemn, we complain, we bring ourselves, in order to be popular, we bring
Mm.
ourselves down to a low vibration that actually goes out and brings back into our life more of those things.
Yeah, I guess I think of it and what comes to my mind, that's just what comes to my mind, is the resonance. Two strings on a guitar, when they resonate together, even without touching one another, there's a resonance, and then it stirs it into vibration, into activity. And I guess it's that you're taught that kind of.
It's the exact same
happening.
It's the exact same thing. So during my webinar, I talk about just recently, just the Christmas time, my son was running a very high fever. And I had my girlfriend on the phone, and she was like, okay, what is the fever now? And it was like 102. And then, okay, what is the fever now? It was like, 105. And then she says to me, well, if he goes anywhere between 103 and 104, you have to bring him to the hospital. And at that point, I panicked, just the of bringing him to the hospital with COVID out. And so all of a sudden, his fever reaches 102.7. And I started to shake, and I could actually feel the negative vibration coming out of me. And the reason I'm describing this is because I think we have all felt the vibration, right? We have felt it when we're extremely scared or when we're extremely angry. Sometimes
we literally shake when we're extremely afraid. We shake and tremble in fear. I mean, that's nothing new. That's
exactly. But just imagine that long enough, that vibration goes out and brings back more of that, right? So where should we stay? We should stay above 200, right? We should stay in a place where there is hope, where there is joy, there is happiness, there's peace.
And how do you do that?
Yeah, exactly. Now,
what we should do, and what is good to do, and what's good not to do. But the challenge, I think, for most human beings, frankly, is the doing of the things, that the shoulds and the coulds. And
exactly. So everybody tells us, manage your thoughts, do this, do that, right? Be positive. And it's like, how could I be positive when I don't want to the
easy to say.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm shaking, right? So number one is, don't feel guilty if you're having negative thoughts, because guilt is a low vibration something. So basically, number one, whatever you're feeling, right? Just be aware of it. Don't judge it. The minute that you judge it, you get all tangled up into some kind of a negative something, right? The minute that you judge something, you start saying it should be this, but it's actually this. I should have this, but I have, it's just. So just
when people talk about, shooting all over ourselves.
Exactly. So number one, just embrace whatever is going on, right? And then there's multiple things you could do. So the thing that I have nearby, but not close enough for me to show you, but it's like I'm looking at it. I always have a gratefulness journal nearby. So always have a notebook nearby where when you start noticing that you're in a negative space, and how do you know you're in a negative space? Ask yourself, how do I feel? If you're not feeling that great, most likely there's a thought behind it that is actually making you not putting you in a negative spot, right? So have a notebook nearby, and all you need to do at any point in the day is write a couple of things you're grateful about. I'm so grateful for the sunshine today. Right. I'm so grateful that I get to talk to you, Karen, today. What a blessing. I am so grateful for so many things. I go crazy with this, Karen. Like I'm not expecting,
But
the audience.
it changes the flow of chemicals in our brain, quite literally, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So, one of my mentors now, Imana Guy, says that our brain doesn't know the difference between gratefulness and success. So
Mm.
the minute that you start being grateful, your brain shifts. Your
Mhm.
brain is, okay, we're moving towards a successful direction. So, so that's a one thing you could do, right? Another thing you could do, again, my favorite, I know it may be tough for some people, but another thing you could do is visualize. Now, what does that mean, right?
Right. So that's um, it's one of those things that are easy to say, visualize your success. I mean, we've heard now it's more common for us to hear visualize something. But there was one time when I was talking to a friend of mine and I said, can you visualize something? She said, I can't see anything. I can't even.
Exactly. Exactly. So I'm going to give you a different way to do it. Okay.
Okay.
You don't have to close your eyes. You don't have to
Okay.
close your eyes at all. But just think about, if life was perfect, if you had all the money and all
Mhm.
the time in the world, what would a day in your life look like?
Right.
So just answer that question, right? Like, just ask yourself, if life was perfect, however you define perfect, right? Now, the beauty of this is that we all want different things, right? So if you were to define, Karen, your perfect day, if I were to define my perfect day,
It'd be
it's
absolutely different.
totally
Yeah.
different, right? Because
Excepting for the ants. Excepting for the ants. I did resonate with that one. I used to save
oh,
ants from drowning in the channels where I grew up in Australia during the summertime. But anyway, that's another. That's
is
that's.
that something, like the two people on Earth that worried about ants
Yeah. There you
come
go.
together? Um, so anyway, I think that it lets your imagination
Right.
bring you to a place of knowing exactly what joy means to you. And my apologies for that.
Oh, that your phone. I was thinking, I don't have a phone that makes that sound.
No, it's my phone. My apologies.
Yeah,
Oh,
not a problem.
please ignore it. If you,
I will ignore it. I had bangings on. We've got roofers in our place at the moment. So before I was turning off my microphone because there was bang, bang, bang on the roof. So if I turn it off, that's what it's going off for. But go ahead. I can take a moment as they leave their message, and because I am going to want to ask you about what are some of the benefits of transformational work and the biggest challenges that people, and now we've kind of dived into that already, and I don't know whether the person has finished leaving their message, but
no, it's all gone. My apologies for that. But basically, if you start with your perfect day
yeah.
and almost watch a movie in of your
Mm.
imagination of what your day looks like with you as the star of the movie, right? So, but pay attention to how you are feeling. And the reason I'm saying that is, many people would say, oh, then I'm skinny. Okay,
Right.
why is that important? Health reasons, whatever, you may have all your reasons. But actually, it's because we think it's
That
going to
we
make
will
us
feel a
feel
certain,
a
yeah, yeah.
certain way. If you say, I'm in my brand new huge house, it has 50 rooms in it. Okay, how are you feeling? How does that make you feel? I'm in a Lamborghini, driving to work. Why do you want a Lamborghini? How does that make you feel? It's the feelings and the experiences that we're actually looking for, right? So I would say visualize, and I would say know that your brain does not know the difference between a visualization and
Right,
reality.
right.
And
Because of how we feel even during that visualization. And I guess that's the what is it, the MRFIs, the FRMIs, the functional magnetic resolution that they do on the brain is your brain doesn't know the difference.
exactly, doesn't exactly. And I could have a very quick exercise just so your audience could experience it. If you So if you don't have to close your eyes, but just imagine, you could if you want, imagine yourself in your kitchen. And now you are opening your refrigerator, and right on the shelf, you see a lemon. Pick up the lemon, smell it, put it on a cutting board, take a knife, cut it in half, cut that again in half. Now smell it. Pick up a wedge of lemon and bite.
Mm-hmm. I just went,
Exactly, Karen. So a lot of people go, but if you notice in your mouth, there is extra saliva.
Right. I
Now,
do notice in my mouth there's extra saliva,
now, we didn't do anything. We just imagined we cut up a lemon and we bit into a lemon and we smelled it. Um, but I just want you to experience how your
Right.
brain doesn't know the difference. If you're visualizing it, as far as your brain is concerned, it's happening. And if you're going to bite into a lemon, it's going to give you saliva to deal with it.
That's right. And this. I'm jumping fast forward a little bit to the end of the show when I'm going to be talking about what I've got coming up. But this is what's exciting, potentially dramatically exciting about virtual reality, the potential for both good and bad, of course, and always. But it's still, again, we're in those worlds. And we can construct those worlds and even be assisted in constructing those worlds, or, taken on journeys through those worlds in powerful, powerful ways.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I'm hoping that the audience is seeing a connection on how it all is kind of working, and how, if you do have New Year's resolutions, how to actually get into the zone, get into the zone of manifesting, getting into the vibration level that will allow manifestation, right? Now, the other thing, when we talked about my perfect day, your perfect day, everybody has a different perfect day. That's because we all have a different purpose, right? So many people say to me, well, I have no clue what my purpose is. And again, I just say, relax, right? Like, everyone has been telling us you have a purpose in life, right?
Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping in here, but that is such a big thing for people to actually, because we can see out there when we look at people, when we look at the Elon Musks, when we look at people who feel that they have this mission and profound sense of responsibility for bringing something into reality, they're a force of nature. They become quite literally a force of nature. And yet so often it's easy to say, have a sense of purpose. So
Right.
I just wanted to underscore what you were saying, because I want to hear what you want to say about that.
Exactly. But number one, we need to know it's not just them. It's not just them. We all have a purpose. We underplay it. They overplay it. Well, they know what it is. And I don't mean they overplay it, right?
They underscore it, whatever.
They're out there to achieve it, right?
Yeah.
And part of what I ask everyone to do is exactly the same thing. Understand it if you can. If you can't, relax. You will. You will, right? And basically go out there and do it. Don't be afraid. We get so comfortable in our routine, waking up every day, eating the same thing, doing the same, going to work, we get into this routine, yet we know that our brilliance is outside of that routine. It's not in that little circle.
Not in the comfort zone.
Exactly. It's right outside of it, right? So every single one of us has this same purpose. And basically, what I would tell people is don't worry about what is my purpose and go with your joy. Go with your joy. Don't worry about. Some of us are very clear as to what our purpose is, right? And like I said, for me, I got to experience certain things in life ever since I was little, and then had the opportunity to kind of reflect on it, find myself in a position of teaching people, empowering people to change their life, right? And then I got it. Okay, I got it. That is my purpose. That's why I'm here.
So you kind of got you were doing it before you realized you were doing it.
Exactly.
In a way.
Exactly. But then something happens and it's screaming at you. You know exactly why you're here, right? And then you're more than happy to do it. You're more than happy to do it. So what I ask everybody is just go with the flow. Don't feel like you're missing something that brings low vibration, and just follow your joy. Follow your joy.
You mean I'm allowed to be happy?
Oh my gosh, that's all you're supposed to be. I don't understand how some people think we're here to suffer, and guess what? If that's what we believe, that's exactly what we're going to experience, right? So yeah, we are here to experience joy and happiness and love and abundance and health. That's what we are here to experience. So yeah.
And I was just going to say, and what happens when we find ourselves in the middle of not happy, not healthy, not abundant?
Right. Exactly. Which means we have wrapped ourselves up in our human self, right? Now, what I mean by that is that every single one of us embraces two versions of ourselves. And one is the human side, and one is the spiritual side, right? And for those that are not comfortable with the term spiritual side, there is a true self. There is a true self that's not really the human self, right? So our true self, the one that knows that we are eternal, the one that knows that we are love, the one that knows that we are abundance, the one that knows that we are health, the one that knows we are joy and happiness, right? That is our true self. Our human self is not that. Our human self is about fear and pain and our ego getting its, our feelings hurt. And how am I different from the other person versus how do I love the other person, right? So when we start experiencing being unhappy and being not abundant and being all those things, it's actually a matter of accessing our true self.
And how does one start to do that?
Right.
In this very physical, real world of ours that has both, the visible and the invisible, the tangible, the intangible.
Right. And we kind of already talked about those things, gratefulness, visualization, and again, what does my perfect day look like?
Right.
We talked about follow your joy, but let me just expand on that, right? So, how do you raise your vibration? What do you love to do? My thing is to sing silly songs. Silly songs. So, when I'm starting to feel sad or whatever's going on, the song Shaboom comes up for me, and I actually not only sing it, but I will do shaboom, shaboom, na 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 na. I'll actually physically, make silly faces and silly songs. And all of a sudden I'm laughing, and all of a sudden other people are laughing at me. And it becomes a funny, happy something, right? For some of my friends, dancing is their thing. So just blast the music and dance your heart out like no one is watching. For some people, taking a walk in nature. For some people, just a walk by the ocean. I have my birds outside. I love feeding the birds, right? Just watching them so happy because there's food in the bird feeder.
In some ways, it's like it sounds like you're saying to do something you can immerse yourself, you can lose yourself in.
Exactly. It's almost the opposite of what you said, Karen, right? Because our true self, the happy self.
Okay, you lose your sad self.
Lose your sad self and go back to who you truly are, right? Because in your trueness, and that's not a good word, in your real self equals happiness, love, every single person on this earth. I always say I feel like I have, I could see through people, right? Because regardless of what show they're putting on for me, I could always see the love within them. Like I remind myself, this person is full of love. For whatever reason, they're choosing to do whatever, to be whatever, right? Oh, and by the way, I'm not telling you to be around toxic people, right? Or people that are going to hurt you, but I am saying that not to be afraid, to see through people, to know, to see the love within them, but at the same time, don't allow anyone to hurt you physically, emotionally, spiritually.
Right. There are some baselines there we could say. But yeah, so how can people get okay, so people have made a New Year's resolution of some kind, and you've gone over a couple of things about how to visualize, how to lose ourselves / find ourselves, or find our true self. What are some of the other best ways to get results so that people can start to really transform? What are some just rules of thumb, some recommended things to keep in mind, some things to look for, books to read, things to do each day? Any recommendations?
Yes, of course. So
given our reality of who we are as human beings.
Right. So whatever you have on your list, right? What you have to remember is that if you are driving somewhere, so let's say if you're in New York and you want to drive to California, right? When you get in your car to drive, you're only seeing, 100 feet in front of you. You don't see California, right?
Not quite.
Yeah. You just keep driving a certain distance at a time until you ultimately see California. So whatever your New Year's resolution is, don't expect it to happen in a day, right? Only understand the next step. What is the first 100 feet of it? What is my first action, right? What is the first 100 feet of it? And then practice. Whatever you want, whether it's like, I want to lose weight, I want to exercise more, I want to eat healthier, I want to be in a larger home, new car, new clothes, new boyfriend, new whatever you might want, right? Whatever your thing might be, the reason you want it is because you want to feel different. So you're a certain way today, and you believe that if I win the lottery, boy, that's going to make me feel different. Ask yourself, when I achieve it, how is that going to make me feel? And practice feeling that way now. Practice that feeling, but again, take action, have a plan with action steps.
Right.
And actually take one step at a time. It's one step at a time, and don't give up is the other thing.
Yeah. So when you work with people, what do you do with them? How do you work with people?
Yeah. So in my latest course, Life Transformation Mastery, I do what we're doing right now, right? Basically sharing things that people may already know, presenting them in a different way. Just as an example, maybe people didn't know about the vibration thing, that every single minute of the day, vibration, something goes out. And what if they know that information? Now they could use it in their life, right? So the way that I work with people, number one, and you saw with the lemon exercise, I don't want to be telling people how it works. I want to give them practical steps, and I want them to experience it. I want them to know it. I don't want to tell you your brain believes your visualization. I want you to experience it, right?
Yeah.
So the way that I work with people in my course, my course is 8 weeks. I start out by doing a deep dive on thoughts. My thoughts, my life is the very first week, and how our thoughts affect everything in our life, right? And then the second week is how to fall in love with you. So the second week is getting people to understand how perfect you are. Now, believe it or not, that was so tough on people when I first started teaching
Yeah.
because we're taught, well, I'm only human, so I'm not perfect, right? Well, guess what? You are absolutely perfect for what you're here to do.
Mm.
So that second week we do a deep dive on you and the perfection of you. Um,
Mm.
then the third week we go into self, meet self, and that's the human self versus the true self. Understanding the concepts of the human self and its perfection, because
Mhm.
even if it makes
Right.
us sad and it
Yeah.
makes suffer and it makes us agonize, there's still a perfection in that. And then our true self, then we start talking about other people entering our life, right? And all the approvals and the judgments and everything that goes on.
Yeah. Yeah. And that complication. Yep.
Exactly, exactly. But basically, every person in your life is your teacher. Every
Mhm.
person in your life. So even the ones that are really doing a job on us
Mhm.
and saying stay away from toxic, but almost love them, stay away from toxic, but love what they're giving you because they're
Mhm.
giving you a stronger, better version of you. Then the last 4 weeks, Karen, is actually once you understand those four things, you're almost in a different place in your life. Then,
Mm.
then we do a deep dive on universal laws. And no, it's not just the law of attraction. There's 11 other ones at play in your life, right? And then we go into understanding synchronicity in the universe and miracles in the universe. And then finally understanding, we go a lot into practices, some of the things you could do every single day to raise your vibration, to make sure that you're attracting all the right things in your life. And then finally, on week 8, we celebrate your greatness. Most people by that time have had an incredible life
Transformation.
transformation, an incredible change in their life. And the last time I ran the course, um, it was it was amazing as to how every single person got to achieve something that they thought was not possible. So it's really an experience.
So it sounds to me like you give people an an experience of what you thought when you first looked at the Dale Carnegie and thought was impossible. You discovered it was possible, and then you give them that experience of
Exactly,
what
exactly.
seems to be impossible but is not.
Not
I don't know
exactly.
whether that makes sense, but anyway, I mean, that's just what it occurred to me, is that you found a way to package all of that so that people can have that experience for themselves.
Yes, of course, of course. So, just to give you an example, one of the gentlemen that I have been friends with for a very long time, his name is Ken. He always wanted to be in charge of the training organization in his company, but
Mm.
he was in sales. So he thought it would be crazy for me to even apply. Like, there's no chance, I have no experience. There's no
Right, right,
chance I
right.
would ever get that job. Well, during the course, um, somehow he decided to walk up to a person and say, "That's the job I want." And the person answered, the person answered, "You got it." And
Wow.
it's shocking. But right now he's in the job of his dreams, right? And um, he really believes if he was not in the course where he was being encouraged to follow that perfect life, whatever perfection is to you. For him, the perfect life was having that job, and he just made it happen for himself. So that's how I actually work with people, Karen. I don't know if I answered your question.
No, I think that gave us a sense of how that is done by walking us through that. I think even just the stages that you led us through. Thank you for that. And so that's something that I do want to make sure that people, I think, back on the page where you found this link somewhere on the Exceptional TV site, and I'm going to drop it into the chat, a place where I think actually the particular one is you said you were going to have I asked you before we came on air that you're going to have a webinar that kind of introduces this. Is that what it is?
Yes,
So that if people do want to do more with you, if they've liked what they've heard, then this is something that they could do.
Yes. So there is a booklet that I'm giving out to the audience. It's called 5 Ways to Self-Love. And if people get that booklet, I will send them an invite to the webinar.
Okay.
That's going to take place tomorrow. And
okay. So the 5 ways to, I'm going to, that was I'm going to drop in a link. I'm going to put call it 5 ways link. But continue to explain, while you're doing that.
So
I'm doing
it. I really believe that the world could change if everyone loved themselves and understood the perfection in themselves. So 5 Ways to Self-Love gives you the ability to take an inventory of who you are and to see how perfect you are. I truly believe, Karen, that if everyone in this world loved themselves, they would have a better capacity to love each other. And I really believe with that little booklet, I could change the world, right? Like, if more and more people love themselves and loved each other, the world could become a different place. So, hoping people get to experience that. So
I am going to call, this is just creating a short link so that it's recognizable, and I'm dropping it in the chat. It's Maria's 5 Ways to Love. It's a short link. So that's in the chat for people. So I would encourage you, please download it. I'm going to go and download it after this and take a look at it. We're already just about running out of time. It's amazing. The hour went so quickly, Maria. Thank you so much for joining us and for taking the time to give us a taste of the lemon. To walk us through, even I think just as you walked us through, my thoughts, my world, my life, just that little transition of, how to love ourselves, how it connects those sometimes woo-woo sounding things with very pragmatic shifts and changes and steps that often we don't pay attention to. And when we don't, we say, but why are things not the way I want them to be? So thank you for taking the time to do, with us today, Maria. And so I would encourage people to, download the book, go back to the page. And I just want to thank you. Is there anything else you'd like to say as we close out?
Just thank you so much. What a privilege to get to talk together today, Karen. Thank you. And thank you to everyone who is listening. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Maria. And so just as a thank you for this week, and I just wanted to add that this time next week or the week after, and we're still nailing down some times here, I do have a very unique opportunity coming up. And I think from what we talked about today with Maria, this, the reality of what's going on in our heads, our hearts, and how we feel, and the connection with some of today's latest technologies, and that's the VR world. And so I've got two wonderful speakers who are going to be coming in. One is Joe Millward from the technical and further education. It's a VR lab that has about 1,000 students in Sydney, Australia, and a solo dev of a surprising blockbuster VR game called Gorilla Tag, and why it's been so successful and how it's touching the lives of literally millions of people around the world, even though it's just still almost in a beta form. But so I think that's going to be a fun, probably a little bit more on the tech and geeky side. But I love the people who heard today to find the connections between, what Maria is saying and the VR world and where some of our technology is going for better and for worse. So I invite people to come back and hear again our next Exceptional TV show. So again, Maria, thank you so much for joining us and for giving these gifts to people. And I hope some people jump on and jump into your course and really learn. Loving ourselves probably doesn't hurt, because when we've got that self-love, and sometimes in the world we've lived in, loving ourselves is often seen as a negative. But if it's done in a healthy way and a very just a healthy way, it's actually essential to having a peaceful and wonderful world. So thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing everybody again with Exceptional TV this same time, same place next week.